When talking about what makes something good or what makes something fleshed out, the most misunderstood aspect of writing is always time. What I mean by that is there's a giant misconception that time is needed for development and time is needed for depth, in the sense of being in the story for hundreds of chapters or tens of chapters, when that's not the case. The biggest proof being Yodo and Sarada's dynamic. Yodo is someone who has only had an important role for about 10, give or take, weekly manga chapters, because Boruto has like 2.5 weekly chapters within the one monthly chapter, if we go by page count. Yet her impact and depth has far exceeded my expectations and far exceeded a lot of people's expectations. Let's begin. To first figure out how good Yodo truly is, we have to look at the theme of Two Blue Vortex. The theme of Two Blue Vortex is love. That is not to be confused with romantic love. It is love in every way, shape, or form. Hidari's parental love of Sarada, Matsuri's romantic love of Konohamaru, even Bug's non-consensual love of Ida, and Ryu's childlike love for his parent, that being Gaara. All of these are embodied through different concepts and parallels throughout the various fights that the Shinju have in Boruto 2 Blue Vortex. Yodo, of course, is supposed to parallel and show the love of romance. This being that how she loves Shinki and she's willing to put her life on the line for Shinki, basically putting her life second and prioritizing his. This is shown with how rash she makes her decisions when it comes to fighting Ryu, and also when Arya gives us a bit of backstory on why exactly they're fighting and why exactly their relationship has been strained. It's because she has a crush on Shinki. This causes her to kind of mess up the dynamic that Mitsuki and Sarada kind of had going into the Ryu fight, and what made a lot of people kind of hate her because of her biggest character flaw, that being her temper and her inability to control her emotions when it comes to Shinki. This is something that is shown and seen to be a weakness throughout the fight with Ryu, but something that she tries to highlight for Sarada is selfishness, and how that isn't actually a weakness and can ultimately become the thing that overcomes the mighty foe that is Ryu, or the Shinju themselves. This is highlighted when Sarada does a bit of deep dive on her inner mental struggles, and she basically lists off all the things that she thinks or people thinks that are weaknesses for her and her character and goal in becoming the Hokage. One of these things is her love for Boruto. Yodo realizes this and realizes that Sarada is hiding something and is blind to something, all because of how she views weakness and views love. This being, of course, her MS. She is basically the catalyst for awakening this, because she shows through actions and words that if you take hold of this selfishness and this romantic love and ignore what everyone's saying and stop beating around the bush and beating yourself up about how relationships should be put second and relationships can't go hand in hand with your goals and your actual aspirations, you'll find that you'll become much more powerful than ever. This is what's hiding within Sarada. This is the reason that she can't awaken her MS, or she doesn't understand her MS. During the flashback, Sasuke even comments on how her eyes were basically still closed, in the sense that she doesn't know that she awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan. Boruto and her feelings towards him were so powerful that in the spur of the moment, it caused a complete change in trajectory of the entire story. It made her resist omnipotence and made her able to put forth this desire onto Sasuke in a sense and make him train Boruto. Sasuke, the only reason that he believed in this is because seeing the reaction that the Mangekyo Sharingan has on the user, needing a strong emotional bond and strong emotional push to even awaken the Sharingan in the first place, and how the Sharingan ultimately reflects the heart of the user. This was proof enough that Sarada was telling the truth, and this was proof enough that his daughter was actually serious. Yodo being the one to kind of seemingly mess up the plans and get herself killed, while telling Sarada to stop holding back and actually, put forth her love and selfishness so that she can ultimately help Boruto, is perfect. Because it not only shows that, this thing that has been constantly shown to be a weakness and constantly shown to be something that's looked down upon for Sarada's character. I mean, people like Shikadai, Shikamaru, and Sumire are always questioning Sarada, with Shikadai telling her, oh, her dad's a traitor and, don't mess up the mission, or Sumire telling her that maybe she's getting in the way of Boruto, and even Shikamaru, all these years not believing in Sarada, are all proven wrong by Yodo herself. Yodo embodies the truth. She embodies the core issue of all of these people, which is something that even Naruto showed us with the fact that he chased Sasuke even though everyone had given up on him. While her life was sacrificed in the process, she showed Sarada that even if you feel powerless, do anything you can to protect the ones you love, causing Sarada to actually awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan and actually reflect her deepest desires on screen through this chapter 21, with actually being conscious of this decision and manifesting her Mangekyo Sharingan ability. Sarada's character does a complete self-reflection. She reflects on everything she thought throughout the years, and she reflects on everything that people forced her to think about and belittle herself over throughout all of these years, and came out way more powerful. She realized that helping Boruto and loving Boruto is not a detriment, it's not a weakness, it's something that can actually drive her forth to become Hokage. Because like the Hokage before her, her idol Naruto, the entire village is her family. She loves each and every person whom she wants to protect. That being the entire theme of Two Blue Vortex, and Yodo's death basically embodying this, as well as her character, serves as the perfect plot device to push Sarada to awaken something that Koji says is basically one of the most important things for the future. This impacts the entire Boruto world and Boruto universe, because as you know, Jura is the worst ending and worst timeline, and they basically can't ever defeat him. But in this timeline, Sarada is actually pushed to awaken her Sharingan by Yodo and Yodo alone, which could in turn save the entire planet. Yodo herself being someone that's, so important in such a little amount of time, people often say, well, what makes us care about this character? Why did she leave a lasting impact? And how do we even know that she loves Shinki how much she says she loves him? Well, that's because to be a good writer and to write a good character, like I said at the beginning of the video, you don't need hundreds of chapters. The proof that she loves Shinki this much and that she's actually telling the truth and we should care about her character is the fact that she is willing to die for him. She's willing to mess up the entire mission and put her life second just for this one person. No one without the drive or love for someone would put their own life on the line for them. We see this with Naruto, we see this with Boruto. Boruto is willing to put his life on the line for people like Naruto and Kawaki because that's his father and that's his brother. Kawaki is able to put his life on the line after ridding the world of Otsutsuki's because he loves Naruto. Naruto is able to put his life on the line for Sasuke even though Sasuke has done all of these terrible things because he understands Sasuke and he still loves Sasuke. The same is true for Yodo. She is paralleling all of them in a sense and embodying the theme of love in Two Blue Vortex by dying and by fighting for Shinki. This is something that has been seen time and time again as a weakness, like I said, and it being pushed and flipped on its head essentially into the biggest strength of this arc, that being Sarada's MS ability, works perfectly with Yodo's characters. And for the people saying that, okay, she died too early, she was wasted, no, it would be complete fan service to keep a character around just because you have to or just because the fans want it. She has served her purpose, and she serves the ultimate purpose by showing that yes, she completely values Shinki's life over hers because she actually did die for him. Because actions ultimately speak louder than words. To die for someone and to say you will die for someone is two different things, because in the spur of the moment, anything can be said. And the only way you truly know where someone's heart is and what someone's intentions are is when they ultimately do it. At the beginning of the video, I mentioned two aspects, that being of course the depth and the impact. I mentioned the impact very briefly, that is being how it's gonna change the trajectory of the battle versus the Shinju and in turn save the Boruto planet, but that's kind of vague, so I'll elaborate on what I meant. Jura is someone that cannot be defeated. He cannot be defeated by normal means. Koji has went through all the timelines and Jura always wins. This is why him and Boruto are concocting and basically shaping the future in a way that is beneficial for both of them. Yodo is someone who is needed and necessary for Sarada's gift, something that Koji says is necessary for Jura's defeat and necessary to basically save the future. So it's not even that she's a plot device or her dynamic only serves one person, that being Sarada. Her dynamic serves to shape and save the entire Boruto universe as we know it, which for a character that only has, like I said, 10 or give or take or so chapters inside of a manga, that is impact that transcends characters that have been 80 chapters or more. The ability to just introduce a character like that and make people care enough to want her to stick around and even have stands, on top of actually elevating one of the main characters of the show, is something that just leads to a great character. character, an amazing character, and I don't think she will be appreciated because of how quick it seemed. Like I said, arbitrary uses and arbitrary continuations of characters don't serve as growth. They don't serve to better a character or better a dynamic. If she is truly dead, then she died a perfect way, and her dynamic with Sarada was enhanced by her death, because meaningless death is never good for a story. If you're gonna die, make it mean something, and this meant the most it could possibly mean. Her death will have lasting effects, such as Sarada actually understanding herself and now putting her weaknesses, quote unquote, in front of her and using them as strengths. She is basically taking a hold of selfishness and using it to defeat her foes. This will help with Sarada's little battle with Sumire. This will help with Sarada coming to terms with Sasuke, and this will help with Sarada coming to terms with her relationship with Boruto. Succeed or fail, this is shaping Sarada for the better and actually going somewhere with the plot. She's essentially like Chiyo in a way, someone who was used to elevate other characters and draw the plot forward, but also became their own likable character with interesting dynamics and interesting backstories. Once Shinki inevitably returns, if he returns after they defeat Ryu and successfully use the Thorn Soul to revive him, this will also have a lasting effect on his character, which is again showing her impact on the Boruto universe, both literally and in the sense of storytelling, because of how many characters she's changing around her and actually shaping her. What makes someone a bad character is if you can remove them from the story and it actually has no consequences. If you remove Yodo from the story, it has almost the most consequences that we've seen with a side character in Two Blue Vortex. The entire world around her and Boruto as a story just changes for the worse. Characters get worse, characters aren't affected when they need to be, and characters don't have this lasting impression. Yodo is perfect, and I love her for being a short and sweet and magnificent plot device and character. Ikimoto truly did an amazing job with making me care about someone who at first I thought was just going to be used as arc fodder. She is so far well and above the best member of her trio, that being Shinki, Arya, and Yodo, of course. She is fleshed out, she changes people, she impacts the world, and she pushes the plot forward. This is all that I can ask for within a character. The cherry on top would be the backstory, but of course, a backstory is the least interesting aspect of a character and doesn't really serve to elevate them, more or less just give reasons and more reasons for us to care about a character. But she already has that solved with her impact and dynamic with Sarada, which is one of the fan favorites of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex. With that being said, tell me if I should cover any more interesting dynamics within Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, or if you have anything to add on Sarada and Yodo's dynamic. I still am loving how the side cast of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex is being treated way better than they were in part 1. If you enjoyed, like, comment, subscribe, and continue reading Boruto. Goodbye.